Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri, aka Russian Prototype. This is Friday, September 17th, 2021. We'll have another exciting one in store tonight. The topic for tonight's discussion, for tonight's live show, is language barrier in romantic relationships. Now, look, I don't even have to tell you that out of anybody, I know this, okay? I do. And you know why? Because I'm a first generation immigrant, because I came to the United States without speaking much of English, because I went through some of the relationships where I had no idea what I was saying. I did not understand what people were saying to me. And I was also on the other side of the equation too. I was in a position where I could not understand later down the road when I actually learned the language. I could not understand what the other person was telling me. So I felt like I experienced both sides of this. All right. And so that's what I want to talk about tonight. Tonight, I want to be able to dive into my experiences. And I also want to be able to talk about real life examples that Prototype Family provided, as well as to talk about the difference between not knowing the words and not understanding the cultural use of language. Okay. Those are two very important differences right there that I want to be able to touch on tonight in this live show. It's Friday. We made it to the weekend. We shall see who is in the house tonight. It looks like we have Jamie in the house. Hello, great to see you. We have Kaya in the house. Hello, Kaya. Great to see you. We have Michelle in the house. Happy Friday. Thanks for being here. We have Ruby in the house from UK. Hello, thank you for being here. I know it's late over there. We have Felicia in the house. Hello, Felicia. How are you? We have Heather in the house. Hello, thanks for joining us. And looks like that may be it. If remember that I cannot see you unless you actually comment. All right, comment is the only way that I'll be able to see who's actually joining us. So let's jump right in. As I mentioned, agenda tonight, I want to tell you about my experiences not speaking the language and my experience not understanding another person. Okay, so I've been on two sides of that fence. I want to be able to talk about not knowing the words versus not understanding cultural use of language, as well as situational awareness or situational 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 I still don't know the words apparently. uh, how this affects a particular situation, let's put it that way. And then of course we have an example, real life example from someone in the community that I want to be able to bring up later on and share it with you as well. So let's start with my dating experience when I arrived to United States of America. When I came to United States, I had very limited English language skill. Okay. And that made it for a very difficult transition. For the first 2 years, I really couldn't understand a whole lot and I had a tough time communicating. And I actually ended up dating someone, I want to say it's been probably 2 months after I came in. And that was that was quite an experience. I knew that we share attraction together, but we did not know how difficult it was going to be not speaking the same language. And back then I had a translator. Back then there were no smartphones. It was 2000, year 2000, and I had this electronic little device that would help me to translate words from Russian to English. And I use that thing with me. I mean, I carry that thing around with me, and I use it quite a bit because at the time there were just so many words that I couldn't understand. And so there were just so many funny like situations that that came up just because I did not know the word. For instance, I remember telling her the, there was something about, we went to a restaurant, and she went to eat without washing her hands or something. She started eating, and I was like, you should wash your hands, and she was like, why should I wash my hands? And I was trying to explain to her, uh, the really what I was talking about, germs. But at the time I was like, I knew the word in Russian, bacteria. So I was like, okay, bacteria. And I had to translate that, and I showed it to her in translation, and she was like, bacteria, bacteria. She was like kind of it almost like she could not quite connect the dots, like, okay, why is this dude worried about bacteria? And so she understood what I meant, but there was a like odd interaction, and there were quite a few of those things. um the other example was, I went to her house one time, and she had to speak slower with me. She had to be super patient and everything. And her friend was there at her house, and her friend and I was in the kitchen, and her friend was in the kitchen, and her friend needed me to put something down on the tray that she was holding. And she was looking at me, and I just remember she was like pointing down and saying loudly, down, down, down. And I'm like, okay, I guess she wants that right here. When you don't understand the language, it's real. It's real. And um, it's difficult to actually understand and relate to it until you're in the situation, and until you don't understand something, you know, until you have to communicate with very few words, with gestures, with sounds, or with facial expressions. Changes everything. Another consideration. Another consideration is that you tend to communicate very literally when you don't speak the language. So when somebody tells you don't, or when somebody tells you um, can't, those kind of, maybe you want to say absolute words, you take it as it is. So if somebody tells you don't do that, in your mind it's an absolute thing. So in your mind, you look at it as, you cannot do that, you should not do that. And it's not always the case. Sometimes words can be used in different contexts, where people say don't, but that doesn't necessarily mean, don't do it, right? So there's things like that. So one point that I wanted to make, one suggestion that I have when you communicate with someone from another country, when you're dating someone from another country, stick to literal translation in the beginning. Um, Literal translation is what's really going to help the person who's a not native speaker to understand what you mean. So what do I mean by literal translation? Use simple words, use very straightforward communication. Okay, so like I was giving example, put it down. So this, down, or go there, do this, come with me, easy. easy words, easy communication. That way, you're going to make it a lot more simple on the other person. When another person communicates with you, understand that uh, they're going to come across differently. They're going to come across very differently from your native speakers. Okay, so for instance, if you communicate with someone from Russia who just came to United States, um, they will say, "Oh, it's funny, I know that because people in my family would say that." So they would tell you, sit down. And in America, when you tell somebody sit down, it's like it's not appropriate. You don't do that. You don't just tell somebody sit down, right? But in Russia, you actually you say садись, присядь. It's normal. You just tell people have a seat. But have a seat, that's not something that Russian person really learns first. The proper English language that we learn is sit down. And especially when it's said with Russian accent, it comes across harsh to people, you know, and in the tone of voice and very directly, sit down, right? So this is just an example of how a lot of this, not just Russians, but a lot of immigrants will communicate. And so it's a literal translation for a lot of them. They're going to use the words that they know, that they learn from most likely proper English, which is English, which is used as cinema, pupils, pupils instead of students, cinema instead of movies, sit down versus take a seat, and so on and so forth. At least that's how we learn back in school. Proper English is different from American English. So keep that in mind. With that being said, make sure that you look at the intent of the communication, not just what's being said. The example that I just gave you, sit down, the intent is to ask somebody to have a seat. It's not to boss them around, right? If you really want to be a considerate person, check out their culture, understand their culture a little bit. Okay? So if you understand how they communicate in their culture, it can actually answer a lot of questions for you. Because if you're just listening the words, you're going to miss a lot of things right away. By default, you're going to miss a lot of things. Words tell only part of the story. I just got this. This supposedly sparking probiotic drink. If you're just joining us, we're talking about language barrier in the romantic relationship. Be sure to smash the like button. It's Friday night. We're hanging out, having fun. Let me pour this in my cup and I tell you if it's good or not. And then I'm going to get to your comments. It's sparkly. Oh, that's not a lot. I thought there'd be a lot more. So just one cup. It was on sale, but still. With electrolytes, vitamins, digestive enzymes, and amino acid. Tastes pretty good. Tastes pretty good. All right, let's take a quick break here and let's look at what the prototypes are saying. Can't forget the prototypes, fam. Can't forget the prototypes, fam. Let's see what's going on over here. Hold on. Heather said, I like when people are mindful about hand washing. Me too. Vanessa, hello. Thank you for being here. Здравствуйте means hello in Russian. Heather said, I once saw a video on these Russian households that have multiple families. Culturally, when they enter the house, they take off their shoes and use the family bar of soap to wash their hands. That's always the case, Heather. You cannot come to a Russian household without taking your shoes off and washing your hands as well. That is just rude. I mean, if you're going to walk in your shoes in somebody's house, you're going to get slapped or yelled at. And washing your hands is just a norm. It just kind of, it goes without saying. If you're not washing your hands, it's just like people are going to look at you as a slob, which actually makes so much sense, because anytime you come in, you don't have to be germaphobe. I'm not suggesting you should be germaphobe, but you touching all kinds of different things, especially now during the pandemic. Wash your hands. It's that simple. We don't even need to have a discussion about that. There's no discussion. It's just part of a hygiene. Take off the shoes, yes, in my culture too. Listen, back in the day, this is how I know I got Americanized, okay? I can't act like I'm the same Russian that I was. Hence, I'm Russian prototype. But when I first came to this country, and especially when I had guests and somebody would come to my house and they would be walking in their shoes, I would get so pissed. I would get so pissed because, I just vacuum or I just clean my floor. Why are you walking in your shoes? And then it finally like comes to a point where it's like, wait, I am in a different country. Realization that you cannot change the country that you are in, that you have to just adjust or tell people how do you expect them to be, right? When they are in your house. Let me know if it's too. I guess I'll keep it that way. That's the only thing you can do. You can't change the entire country. The world does not owe you an explanation, as they say. The world is not going to change for you. You have to adjust to the world. The germaphobe in me likes those practices. I don't even think it's being a germaphobe. It actually more logical. It actually makes sense for you to take your shoes off. I mean, it's not just in Russia. It's a lot of other cultures. And let's be clear here. And I love US. US is an amazing country, but some things in US not great. They can borrow other things from different countries, and taking shoes off at your house is one of them. I mean, how does it make sense to come in home in your shoes and walk around in your house where it should be cleaner than outdoors? Your house should be cleaner than outside at your home. That's how we look at it. I'm not here to bash you ass. I'm here just to tell you my opinion and tell you how things done in other countries. Jamie said, I adapted the shoe at the door at my house a long time ago. Let's see. Vanessa said, well, I meant that I'm Hispanic. What Hispanic people do, we take off our shoes when we enter the door. Becky said, it's really frustrating and Amto not understand what people are saying when they would speak to me. Not sure about this comment, Becky. Clarify, please. Felicia, shoes off and no touching the white walls when you come in the house. My aunt would yell at me when I came to the house and did not do that. Love that woman. May she rest in peace. Rest in peace, for sure. Becky, it's very frustrating when I couldn't understand what people were saying to me in another language. Oh, yes, it is. It is very frustrating. And as an immigrant, you live that. It is not, it is not a temporary thing. It's the world that you continue to wake up day in, day after day. First 2 years in another country, for me, first 2 years, some people never adjust. And some immigrants actually end up living in their communities where they never have to speak English. There is a price that you have to pay in order to move to another country, okay? And this is the price of being in another country and speaking another language is very great. It's not easy. People think it's just, oh, you come to another country, try it. Try to go and live in another country. I'm not talking about vacation. Anybody can go vacation. Vacation is easy. Try to go and live out in another country, work in another country, learn another language, understand another culture, be part of another culture. Completely different ballgame. I think the cultural misunderstanding are the worst. When people get offended and pissed off, that's way worse than language barrier. Yes, I think generally speaking, I would agree with that. Speaking of COVID, I had to get tested today. Negative results. That's very good news. Glad to hear that. Kai said, "Do you feel that people are friendly in the day to day, but it's hard to actually become friends due to the language difficulties?" I think it depends at the on the level, right? Timing of when people are in their transition, and a lot of it also comes down people's personalities. I've met some very friendly people, some very open people in the United States who just it was really easy to talk to them, even when I was new in this country. And funny enough, so I'll tell you another story really quickly. The other story, I had a there was a guy in high school that I knew. He was also he was Indian, but I believe he was born in the United States because his English was really, really good. He was either born in the United States or he came in the United States when he was very little because he was super Americanized. He spoke fluent English and everything. And at the time, um, I was in the United States for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And we started talking. He was trying to be like, I think he was trying to help me. He was trying to be nice to me. He was trying to like introduce me to some people. He We went to a couple of places, like around town, so he was that kind of guy who was trying to pull me along, right? And so one time I remember he calls me and he says, "Let's go get something to eat." And I said, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." But I told him like, "Hey, actually, no, I gotta get the sequence right." So he calls and he says, let's go something to eat." And I tell him right away on the phone, I said, "Look, I don't have money." He says, "Oh, it's okay, I got you, man." I said, "Okay, okay, let's go something to eat then." Then we went something to eat. We went to a restaurant to eat. We had a meal. Um, and it was like it was two of us, and then there were um two females with us, and I think we went like friends. I don't know if it was like meant to be double date or not. At that time, again, like at that time, culturally, I didn't even understand it. I couldn't even perceive. That's another thing. I couldn't even perceive if like another female like me potentially or didn't like me, or it was so difficult at the time. It was so difficult, and I think it's also part of the learning the language, part of the understanding how people communicate, and, and what people's intentions are. But so long story short, with the restaurant, they bring the bill and he pays for himself and he doesn't pay for me. And I ended up asking him to pay because I didn't have money. I didn't bring money because I asked him on the phone and he said yes, I would pay. So I didn't even bring money. And so he's looking at me, and I'm like, I had to ask him in front of two other girls. I had to ask him, "Hey, can you pay for me?" And he did not say, "Oh, my bad. You did ask me, he didn't say none of that. He just looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." And I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed, in that moment. Like I turned red. Because like those two girls were looking at me, like he's looking at me like I didn't ask him. And I felt like I did ask him. And he did say that he would. And so, listen, I don't know if because I mean, that was not that difficult. That was like, hey, I don't have money, and that's it. And he said, don't worry, I got you. That was our exchange, right? And so I don't know how, in that particular instance, we could possibly misunderstand each other. And I don't want to say it was his fault, but I do know that after that time, I never went to restaurants to eat without money. Never. Even if somebody told me in the future, hey, I got you, I always had my wallet. I always had either cash or credit cards with me, because you don't remember what people say. I don't remember anything from that evening, but I remember that very well. I remember the feeling. I remember the embarrassment. I remember the way he looked at me and said, yeah, I got you. And that's part of it. That's part of it. I don't believe that he would do it on purpose. I really don't. But that just goes to show that things like that can happen. Um, oh no, we have a COVID outbreak at work at the moment. Stay safe. That's not good news. 100 people tested positive. Stay safe. Please stay safe. Jamie said, my son works at nursing home, so every week, sometimes twice a week. Whoa, what a name. I can't even pronounce that name, but what a name. Thanks for being here, BF3000. Bianca, hi, how are you? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. It's about 2,000 people that work in the entire plant. That's a lot of people. That's a big plant. Big, big plant. Jamie, when I go to Russia next year, I will be living in my boyfriend's house for 3 weeks. He's the only one in his family that speaks English. So I'm trying to learn Russian so I can at least ask the basics. Good idea. Good idea. And get familiar with the culture. My listen, my channel, I realized that my channel will give you kind of a, a, a very very brief taste, if you will, a speck into Russian culture, particularly into the mind of the Russian man. I would recommend to watch traveling blogs, vlogs, to read about Russia, to really hear from other people's experiences, especially Americans who travel to Russia, and just learn more about culture. I think the more you understand about culture, the more you will start connecting the dots. It's not just about language. Language is very much is an extension of a culture, and not just the language itself, but usage of the language rather, right? Different cultures will be using for the prime example is that if you're going to go to Spain, you're not going to hear the same Spanish as if you're going to go to Puerto Rico. You're not going to hear the same Spanish when you're going to go to Colombia. The usage of the language will differ, even though it's the same language. Same with Russian. If you're going to go to Moscow, it will be one language. If you're going to go somewhere in Ural Mountains, it's going to be different Russian. If you're going to go all the way to the far eastern Russia, it's going to be different language. So it varies depending on the region. So you go, I believe you're going not far from Moscow. So, you know, study that portion of it, understand the experiences that people have had right there in the capital. Heather said, hold up, YouTube censored me yesterday because of spelling. Yes, it did. Maybe. I think it did. Felicia said, even though my ex spoke English pretty good, there still were times where I could not understand some of the things he attempted to say. Yeah, indeed. That's real. Kaya, I had language difficulties when in Hawaii. People kept talking about miles, pounds, pennies, etc. It was so hard to keep translating back to kimis. Is it kiwis or kim? Oh, kilometers, kilometers. Sorry, kilos and cents. You know I'm not good with abbreviations. Phyllis said something about German speakers. Words starting with V in English, they pronounce it with W. So video is pronounced video. Yeah, Kai, we tried the metric system back in the 80s to be like the rest of the world. The government said F that, and we went back and never looked back. It's better that way. You know why it's not better that way? Because most people in the United States, you couldn't tell me when you start breaking it down, you couldn't tell me all the increments, and you couldn't tell me which increment measures what. You know, people know how many probably inches in the foot, but how many feet in a yard, right? How many yards in a mile? Do people know that? Probably not. It's easy with metric system. It's very easy. Everything is intense. 1 centimeter, 10 millimeters. You know, it's easy. 1 meter, 100 centimeters. Easy. 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters. Easy. It's straightforward. I don't know what's the point of complicating it. Michelle, I always take money with me just in case, saves embarrassments. Yes, those are hard learned lessons. Better early than later. The best name in the life. As long as you like it, whatever floats your boat. Diana said, good luck learning Russian, Jamie. Russian is not an easy language, that's for sure. Jamie said, that's why I started following your YouTube, because I wanted to learn about the custom social practices and the culture. Yes, so maybe I need to incorporate a little bit more of it in my videos. I think I actually like that. I think I need a little bit more of it. English sounds a bit different in Jamaica, for instance. A whole lot different. In American English is gonna sound. You realize how differently people sound in UK? Very differently from what people sounds in United States. Like there are even some words that people use in UK, like what is this one? Oh my god, it was in my brain. Rubbish. It's rubbish. They always say that it's rubbish. It's like, what is rubbish? Apparently it's like garbage, or it's like it's bad, it's BS. Rubbish. And they always say that. It's so funny. It's cool though. It's cool. Ruby, can you attest to that? Can you attest to that? There's people say rubbish a lot. What other words, Ruby? Give us like 3 or 4 or whatever number of words that you use in UK that we don't use in United States. Rubbish is definitely one of them. Mate is more Australian thing, I believe. Although I think people do use mate as a friend in the UK as well. But would love to hear your take on it, Ruby. Let's see. Becky said, Yuri, did you ever deal with someone that couldn't speak Russian before you moved to the US? Um, I think we've had couple instances where I've seen tourists in Russia, and we've had some exchange students in Russia that did not speak Russian. And you just communicate the best that you can, gestures. It's always these communications usually get louder because you, for some reason, people think that volume will make up for the lack of knowledge words. I mean, it's interesting. So yeah, there were few instances like that, Becky, but not a whole lot. Jamie, yes, my boyfriend says my Russian is different from his, but that everyone will be able to understand it there. Normally, Russian people are, when they hear that person is not native speaker, um, we understand that, like, it's difficult. We try to listen. We don't expect you to be perfect. We know that, like, for foreigners, it's really difficult to speak with proper endings in Russian. So I think, Jamie, you will get, if you try to speak the language, I think people will appreciate that. Michelle said there is over 40 different accents in the UK. Quite amazing for such a small island. I have a Yorkshire accent. That's amazing. UK accent is just nice. I think it's really nice. I dig the UK accent. It's nice. It's really nice. Did I say that it's nice? It's quite nice. Ruby, I sure can. Bleemy is another one. Blimey, or is it bleemy? Blimey. We use mate a lot. Blimey. I love the northern accent, Michelle. It's cool. Accents are just awesome. What about bloody hell? What in the bloody hell are you talking about? That is awesome. That's a daily one, Felicia. That's on daily. Oh, yes. I like that. Wait, I use that at work. The Germans look at me funny. That's hilarious. That is funny. Felicia said, I want a British accent. I'm starting to dislike my southern accent. Heather said, I love Jamaican and African accents when they speak English. Sounds melodic. Jamaicans saying this thing, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man. And back in the day, I always thought that he says Batman. I was like, why Jamaicans talk about Batman? Do they like superheroes? No, in fact, they were saying, I'm a bad man. I'm a bad man from Kingston, Jamaica, man. Why everybody gotta be bad man? Why you cannot be a good man? It's hilarious. And African accents are interesting too. Very interesting. There's so many cool accents. When Moroccans speak English, it is pretty. Yeah. All right, where were we? Where were we? All right, let's talk about cultural use of language, okay? This is where I think the difference in how language is being utilized between regions of the country, between various demographics of the country, really becomes obvious. So even if we look at, so we can look at it from a couple different standpoints, right? So good example would be, again, the difference between United States of America English versus UK English. There's going to be things that going to sound completely different because of cultural preferences. So a lot of slang that you're going to hear in the United States is going to be its own, and a lot of slang that you're going to hear in UK is going to be its own. On top of that, if we look at United States as just one country, right, you're going to have different use of the language within the country. So for instance, in Hispanic community, you're going to hear a lot of them use word, um, for example, papi. Papi is like a Spanish word, but they kind of Americanize it. So they almost use Spanglish, right? They saying some things in Spanish, some things in English, and they're going to say, "Yeah, what's up, papi? How you doing, papi?" Or papo. I have Cuban friends who do that. And then at first I was like, "Who is papi? Why are you calling me papi?" Then they use word bro. And it's so funny because my Cuban friend, the way he would talk to his mom, he would tell his mom, "Bro, no, bro, no, bro, I'm not gonna go to the store today, bro." And then his mom was like, "Bro, you gotta go to the store, bro." I'm like, are they use word bro and talk to each other? Hold on, what's happening here? She's calling him bro. That's her son. That's not her brother. That's her son. Why is he calling her bro? She's not his brother. She's his mother. They calling each other bro. Then you start going. If you look at how, for example, African Americans use language, like they use some words and some phrases that only like will be exclusive to them, right? Then you go and look at how Caucasians using English, and they saying certain things that only they say. So you keep breaking it down. You keep seeing that it English, I mean language in general, differentiates culturally to a great extent. One thing that I think is interesting is if you're going to talk to an immigrant, right? Taking this concept and using as an example, for instance, if you're going to tell to immigrant, you should not be smashing other people. So let's say you're dating, right? Staying on the subject that we are talking about. That could be a language barrier in a romantic relationship. If you telling your man, you should not be smashing other people around here, the guy will look at you and say, I don't smash anybody. I don't hurt people, because smash, he will translate it literally. He will not understand the slang. Smash in this context, what she's talking about is having sex with people. He's not going to understand that. He's going to be dumbfounded. Then she's going to tell him, never cap when you're around me. And he's going to say, what? Cap? I don't have any cap. I don't wear any cap. Um, the slang cap, I just learned it recently. Cap apparently means a lie or telling lies. Why are you capping? You're going to say something like that to a new immigrant who hasn't been cultured, who hasn't been around, you're going to lose him. You're going to tell somebody, hey, just don't call me right away. I'm going to be busy. You're going to say, don't call me right away. I'm going to be busy. The only thing they're going to hear, don't call. And they're going to take it literally. They're going to hear don't call, and they probably not going to call. Right? You got to be thinking about those things when you're communicating in your romantic relationship, because otherwise it's going to become a barrier. And Google Translate will not help you with those type of things. It just won't. because Google Translate is not there to overcome this cultural, it's not going to translate the culture. It only can translate words, and that's it. And actually, the example that we have, it speaks to that very, very well. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up to show it to you. So this is the example. Here's an issue many overseas couples face: language issues and the problem and misunderstanding it can create. I recently had one of these happen. I told my boyfriend to text before he calls for the next 3 days because I was going to a food conference fair. He thought I meant not to call or video chat at all. So I'm wondering why he doesn't message me to call, and he is wondering why I don't want him to call. So I told him I was sad that he stopped calling. He says, I thought you did not want me to call you. So I used the Google Translator to explain. He was so sorry that he had misunderstood. But I apologize too because he must have been feeling very rejected by me, thinking I didn't want him to call me, which we do every day. So maybe later, you can talk about how the language barriers can create. So that was one of the reasons I want to talk about it. Various issues can create, just the thought. So that's a prime example, exactly what we're talking about, right? It's a prime example because in this instance, she just told the boyfriend to text before he calls for the next 3 days because she was going to be at the food conference. And he thought that she meant not to call or video chat at all. Like, that's how simple it is to create misunderstanding when one person does not speak that same language. So what other things can potentially happen? We already talked about a few things, right? We already talked about a few things that could potentially occur. What I think, before we maybe going into some examples or look at the comments, I think that you must understand and have a culture of a person you are dating. That's one of the things. I think it's essential. Okay. And what I mean by the culture, not just like, not so much just what Russia is about or what India is about if you're dating Indian, or what Australia is about, but how people communicate in those countries. So it's almost makes sense to trying to understand the language and the style of communication of that other culture, because I think it helps. And another thing that I think is very important is to ask, to make yourself so clear, to say something 2 or 3 times. And I know that that's going to get super tiresome, but when it comes to maybe key points, right? Some really key takeaways, those things need to be reiterated as well. And re-asking, hey, did you understand me? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that. But I think doing those things, re-asking and verifying, especially when you're in the remote relationship, is going to go a long way. Let's see some comments. There's a lot of comments over here. Strong ballerina is in the house. Hello, thank you for being here. Danish. Danish accent. Felicia said, I probably got the best wide range of slang of any person I know. You probably do. You pull some interesting words every single time. Heather, nowadays girls call each other bra. Yeah, they do. I call my friend B. Oh, goodness. Jamie, I have some friends from Morocco. I translate slang for them all the time when I help them with their English. Lost the comment. Oh, here we go. Here we go. New slang, understood the assignment. I dabble in learning French from time to time. Then I heard about Verlan. Femi, Femi Mu. Is that how you say it? Becky said, I noticed moving to different states in the US that the dialects, culture, and slang vary a bit from place to place. Heather said, then there are French word and phrase contractions. Learning formally, you are just going to have to unlearn anyway. Jamie said, I have learned a lot already. Russian people just do. They don't get caught up in needing help or waiting until things are ideal. We are doers. We like to do. Kai said, thanks for the Amazon link to the book on Russian culture. My bedtime reading for a while. Are you going to get it? You're going to order that? That's awesome. Nice. Nice. Yeah, get those books. Let me know how, if you do end up getting, please let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you deem it helpful. What stood out to you? Would love to know your take on it. I think there's something else that need to be said. Um, let me look through some of my points that I've made. So imagine yourself speaking with someone, and imagine that you only understand a few words. Only a few words, and that's it. Let's say that you understand 10 words, whatever 10 words you want to choose. And then how do you communicate with the person, right? I mean, I know it's it's an extreme example, but to demonstrate the language barrier in a romantic relationship, I think it works. So if you know only 10 words, what is the solution? Well, somebody's going to learn. Either you're going to have to learn more words, or they're going to have to learn your language, right? So besides that, what I want you to understand, when let's say that the other person is going to learn your language, you have to be teacher to the other person. You have to assume that he does not understand. And that's going to take a lot of patience, and that's going to take a lot of time, because you're going to have to play that role if you want him to get to a point where he will feel comfortable failing in front of you, failing communication wise over and over and over again. um, patience is going to be one of the most important factors in this whole equation. My take on it is that that approach is going to be helpful. It's not to take responsibility away from him. He's going to have to learn on his own, and he's going to have to learn hard. But what I'm saying to you is that you're going to see him fail. You're going to see him fail. And if you're not patient, and if you unable to contain your frustrations and realize that there's going to be a lot of moments where you cannot communicate. He cannot clearly understand what it is that you want. So a couple of examples. I think I gave you an example when I didn't understand the English, but I didn't think. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is to give you an example of how I literally did not understand what the other person was talking about. So I did date someone from another country, and their English was poor, and I dated them. It's been 2 or 3 years. So at that time, my English was, I was fluent. I could understand everything. And because I already been in America for a while. And so they were in the United States, and they were just learning the language. But they still were in the very beginning stages of learning the language. So the experience quite interesting, when you first being on the other side of it, and you not speaking the language, you understand what they're going through. So the things that I would do when I heard them say something incorrectly, I would correct them. So if they would miss an article, or if they would say an incorrect wording, or if they would say an incorrect word, I would correct them. I would say not this but that. And then I would also kind of look at the reaction. If they were okay with it, if they were encouraged by my correction, then we would continue. If they didn't take it very well, um I wouldn't, right? But that the person that I have in mind, she was appreciative of the fact when I corrected her. So that worked. But it takes time. Like, that doesn't happen overnight. That takes a while. And plus, she still continued to talk with her friends in her native tongue. So another issue is that people don't spend as much time with English as they spend with their native language. And when that's the case, the progress even slower. It's almost like better off to jump in the pool right away, as opposed to just putting your feet in the pool when it comes to learning the language. It will help. What else do I want to say about this? You can tell when somebody doesn't understand something. So listen, I think I want to make a distinction, because I was dating that person, and we went from like long distance, but then we spent quite a bit of time together hanging out in person. Even in person, it's difficult. When you are doing this over long distance, it's even more challenging, because there's more ways to misunderstand what's been communicated over long distance. When you communicate in person, again, you can read the body language, you can read the tone of voice, you can read the facial expression. So there's a lot more um, signs that you can utilize in your communication. Whereas when you're communicating with someone just solely on the internet, the only thing you have is what's written in the message. So there's a lot greater chance for misunderstanding. And just understand one thing, that it's going to take a lot of time. And I guess if you want a positive, I'll give you a positive. It's hard to argue. if you really wanted one positive out of this entire situation, it is really hard to have an argument with someone who does not speak the perfect English or your language, whatever language that you use, that you speak. They don't speak it, you can't really argue, or you can say, I did not know what you mean. You can always come up with that excuse, right? Uh, um, I don't know why you mad. I don't understand. Like you can only use that so much because at some point you will understand and you do understand. But nonetheless, this is one positive for you right there. Can't really argue. Can't really get into these uh, crazy fights and verbal disagreements when you don't speak the language. There you have it. Let's see. Kai said, got 3 books on Kindle, so have them already. Awesome. Good stuff. Love it, love it, love it. Jamie, yes, and be encouraging, help explain the things that are wrong and why. Yes, yes. So you have to have a caring heart, a nurturing soul to be in that kind of relationship. If you really think that you build for it, understand that you're going to need to take your time and it's going to take some work because this is about skill development. Make no mistake about it. This is like coming to the gym and building your muscle. So you're building a knowledge, you're building your ability to speak another language. And I want you to think of it in at least two different segments. Segment one, number one, is just simply knowing the words. Vocabulary. 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 I hate that freaking word. Vocab. Vocab. Vocab is the one thing. Second thing is culture. Cultural use of the language and maybe slang. Slang is part of it. Slang, jargon, style, all of those type of things. Cultural use of the language. And I think you can even make a case that there's going to be situational use of the language as well. A lot of it is situational. So it's not just about the culture, it's understanding the situational use of the language. Because I think the example that I showed you a few minutes ago with the boyfriend who misunderstood the girlfriend, this was a situational use of the language. That's not so much cultural use of the language. It's situational use of the language, right? When one person was referring to being out, but another person did not understand what exactly she was talking about. So like these are 3 things, right? So building your vocab, understanding cultural angles of the language, and then understanding the situational use of the language. That's how I would break it down. If you can get those 3 things figured out, you are on your way. That's going to simplify things. That's going to set you up for success down the road. Becky said, I've always been very patient with men that are trying to learn English. I know how it feels to be on the other end of it. Felicia, being patient is key and it can actually make for a very loving relationship, especially if you are willing to help and or learn from them. Yes, it can. Yes, it can, unless one of the people will say, do you remember? If one of the people will say, if they will bring up the fact that they will help them to learn English later when they argue. So instance like, oh, do you remember that I actually help you to learn the language? If you're gonna give somebody a guilt trip for that, I think that's very bad. That could be very bad. Keep that in mind. Jamie, oh, I disagree. I think it's worse because it is harder to clean up the problem. What was in regards to? Becky, if I'm communicating long distance and I don't understand what they mean, I will just ask them to please explain it to me or please clarify. Exactly right, Becky. But the issue is the challenge, rather, not the issue. The challenge is that you come across so many of those things, so much of it, that it becomes it could take more time to do these things versus the actual communication. What I'm saying, this becomes your communication. Those type of exchanges back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it can become exhausting. It can become so exhausting because it seems like everything you do is just trying to clarify what exactly is being said and trying to understand what's being said correctly, you know? Heather said, I feel bad when I keep saying what when I don't understand. Or there is an awkward silence with polite head nodding and tight smiles. It is awkward. It is very awkward. That's exactly the point. That is so not easy to do. Hi Jessica, thanks for being here. Jamie said, sometimes we don't understand when we talk on phone or video, so we will type it later to each other. Instead of getting frustrated or angry, we just say, I will write it later. Yes, 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 it happens quite a bit. Absolutely. It comes to a point, it gets to a point where it's just like, I'm tired. I don't think that they're getting it. I don't think that they understand. And listen, the question becomes, how much time are you willing to spend? Let me rephrase this. Not even how much time are you willing to spend. The question becomes, are you willing to continue with this relationship, assuming that this person language that you're communicating on is not going to improve? Because I think it's relatively not easy. I just said it's hard, but I'm saying it's all new and exciting, and you feel like you're helping, and especially if you romantically attracted and involved with that person, you can overcome these barriers in the beginning, right? It's a honeymoon phase. Let's be honest, it's a honeymoon phase. In the first 3 to 6 months, whatever this time period is, it's all brand new, it's all exciting, right? Can you see yourself doing this shit when you in the relationship with that person for 3, 4, for 1 year, for 2 years? Can you see doing that? Can you imagine this being the worst case, and that person is in the exact same level communication wise, and you have a family and you have children? Can you imagine doing this at that point? Because it comes to a point, where you're just like, man, this is exhausting. This is exhausting. And how can, I guess the question becomes, right? So we talked about the positives. We talked about what to do in order to make it happen, right? So let's talk about now the other side of it. it comes to a point where it just feels like you are pushing against the wall over and over and over again, over and over. You're trying, but it's not really improving at the rate that it should be improving at. And then there's a choice to make. There's a choice to make. I mean, do you have enough patience to do? I mean, are you willing to do that indefinitely? That is the question. And it's a very real question, because if you are talking with someone who is living in another country currently, and there's no talks of, that person moving to your country, how long are you willing to do that? Have you thought of that? And that's not just a question for you, Jamie. That's just a general question for everybody who in you know who experience language barrier in a romantic relationship. It's a general question. Now look, this is what I think it's important to have the conversation and to kind of get an idea. If your intent is to have a long, not long distance, but a long term relationship with that person, I think it's a good idea to have a general understanding what's going to happen in the future. Because you also don't want, in my opinion, you don't want to invest all this time right now if if person told you that he or she has no intention to move into your country or to learn that language and speak that language fluently with you. Kaya said, I have enough trouble getting people who speak English to understand my crazy. I'm listening and thinking about how amazing you all are to be in relationships that come with cultural challenges. We have Jamie is, so definitely props to Jamie right now. I am not in that situation right now, but I have been, and I know it's not easy. It is not easy, but it's give and take, because we're talking about people. Sometimes you lose some, but you win some. So for instance, my guess, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, you like that guy, that Russian guy, because he gives something that American guys can give. Am I right or am I wrong? So my point being is that sometime maybe you will miss out on flawless communication, but at the same time, maybe you with someone who is very easygoing. Sometime, I mean, with someone who is caring, with someone who is considerate. And when you have that kind of person who's culturally going to be so far ahead of maybe men in your inner circle or men in your country, or just maybe that guy makes you feel something different, right? Then language, all of a sudden is less important. It kind of moves to the background. So we can't discard that part of it. There's a lot of it. We have to think about how this other person makes us feel and what this communication, what this interaction, not communication in terms of language, but what the interaction in terms of feelings feels like. Just a couple of thoughts there. Jamie said, sorry, when you argue, it is harder to clear up the problem. It always is, isn't it? Also, if he or I get stuck on a word, we save it for later. We will type it and then I will pronounce it for him. Yeah, that's cool. And he does the same for me. Listen, it also comes down to commitment. If you have two people who really have an excellent level of commitment to learning another language, it's never lack of resources, as Tony Robbins said. It's the lack of resourcefulness. You can do anything you put your mind to. Jamie said, yeah, I'm willing, even if he didn't improve. It just means I need to work hard to maybe we will create our own Russian English hybrid language. When you do, let me know, because I would like to hear that. That sounds quite fascinating. He's also very determined to learn English. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I like that. Oh man, what a fun conversation. What a fun conversation. Oh, I'm trying to think what else I can tell you that could bring some value without repeating myself. At the end of the day, it is a barrier because it is hard enough to speak each other language and communicate well. But that said, there's something about people's personalities and how people choose to interact with other people and with the world around them. And a lot of times opposites attract. People from opposite cultures, they're drawn to each other because it's something different, because it's something new, because they could be more considerate, they could be more attentive. And so I encourage you to look at language as one of many ways to evaluate the success of your relationship. It is not end all be all. Behavior of another person, attentiveness of another person, consideration of another person, approach, actions, of course, presence, presence. And when I say communication, communication means the effort that's being put into the relationship. Communication in this context does not mean perfect language. It means, does this person reach out to you? Do you reach out to him all the time? Are you consistently communicating? Do you both make effort to communicate? That's what's important. I think you are at the perfect level. You might not speak perfectly, but when you can find the word, it's adorable. I think it's aimed at Jamie, I believe. Felicia with $10 super sticker. Thank you so much. That's your support is super humbling. Appreciate you supporting every single day. We can be arguing about football, not agreeing on that, and then you still find a way to make me feel appreciated. So I really, really humble by your support. Thank you so much. Let's see. I was looking at some other comments. Becky said, despite language barriers, I don't regret any of those relationships. It's worth it. As long as you feel that way, that's all that matters, I think. Body language is important too, obviously. Very much so. Body language is very important. I think this is one of the hardest things when it comes to long distance relationship, because you don't see some of these things. So you have to kind of like go off of what's actually happening with your communication. Strong ballerina, I had a language barrier because of the local dialect initially. I was like learning to understand a different language. Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. Jamie, it is a barrier. We have had multiple misunderstandings, some of his part, some of mine, but we both have a lot of the same likes and dislikes. He makes me laugh, he makes me happy. I can't pinpoint why. And look, this is what I'm saying. Like, we can have these conversations. I can kind of give you my baseline assumptions and knowledge, but love is a mystery. Attraction is a mystery. At the end of the day, we can say all we want, but we're not going to be able to explain every single thing. Jamie is feeling happy. She's feeling, she's laughing with someone who is in another end of the world. What do you make of it? I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing. you know they don't speak the same language. They might not perfectly understand each other, but does it matter? There is some things like this. you know there's this sense of happiness and joy that just diminish any barriers. They just do. And what are you going to do? How are you going to explain it? You either feel it or you don't. And when both people feel it, language is a nuisance. All right. So listen, I'm happy to see this. I'm happy to see this. And Jamie, I truly hope that this is real. I know you feel that way, but I just, I truly hope in my heart that his intentions are pure and real. And I wish you nothing but the happiness with him. I wish that everything works out and that you end up together one way or another, however you both decide to proceed with this relationship. I hope that you're truly happy. And that's it, you know? And that'll be another great story for one of the live shows where I can be showing you pictures and videos from Russia to everybody, and you can tell us about your experience. I think it'll be amazing. Strong ballerina. I had a language barrier because of the local dialect Norway. It was like learning a new language. I spoke Norwegian with Swedish accent, but the dialect was hard. That is also super interesting. Some of these countries, I don't even know, some like I don't Scandinavian countries, I don't even know all the languages that they speak. Some of that is just so makes me wonder. Becky said some connections are so special they are almost spiritual, and sometimes there's people who speak perfect English and can never understand your heart on who you really are. Listen, that is so true, Becky. That is so true, because sometimes you have conversation with someone in English and you understand each other perfectly, but you don't feel, it's like you can call it um, a brotherly soul or some sort of like connection. In Russia, it's actually in Russia there's a combination of words. It says bratskaya dusha. Bratskaya dusha, it's like brotherly soul. I think that's why I said that. But it sounds different in Russian. The meaning is different in Russia. Like it means more. When you say like bratskaya dusha, it means like you like this. You're tight. You have connection. And so to your point, Becky, like a lot of times you just talk to people and it's just dry. You don't feel anything. And sometimes you meet somebody and you just start laughing with them, or you start talking about something, and like you're just hanging out and smiling at each other, right? Or you just connect. You just feel that instant connection. And it is not based on language. It is not based on language. Because I can think of a couple of times when that happened in Europe, where we didn't speak the same language perfectly. In fact, the other person would speak broken English, and I could just tell that they had a beautiful soul. And there's something to be said about that. 100%. That that connection is real. And it, yeah, like look, my encouragement to everyone is like look for these opportunities where you feel something different when you are with someone. But feel for something more than just a regular conversation about weather. Oh yeah, how weather today? Oh yeah, weather's good today. Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah, it's good. Weather's good. uh how are you today? I'm good. How about you? I'm good. Okay. Do you realize that sometimes, like when you communicate with people, you talk to people at work or people just even in normal life, and they will ask you how you're doing, but they really don't want to know the answer. Sometimes they just pass you. Because I observe those type of things. Sometimes they just pass you, and they will be asking you how you're doing in passing, and you expect it to say good. And then I think sometimes when you don't, I think honestly, sometimes when people ask you questions such as how you doing, and they just keep walking, it does not matter whether you say anything. They're just going to keep walking. It does not matter if you're going to say, I'm doing very shitty today, actually. Okay. They're not there to listen. This is a good point, because the question that I want to pose to every single one of you, when you ask a question, whatever the question is, are you asking the question with the intention to listen to the answer? I am guilty of that. I'm not always doing that. And I don't even want to make excuses why I don't always do that. It is what it is. But here in the United States, I can tell you for sure that it's a common practice. And I think that's part of a reason why people feel less connections here, is because people actually don't make an intentional effort to create these connections. You have to be able to talk and listen, not just talk. You have to be able to listen first if you want to make intentional connections. And sometimes intention is not to listen. Sometimes intention is just to be nice. How you doing today? Oh, how are you today? Good. Okay. There's no follow-up question. The expectation is that you're going to say good or fine or I'm okay. Good, fine, I'm okay. These are your default answers. So if you really want to look deeper at this whole communication thing, people really don't feel good, okay, or fine. People feel either terrific, either great, either, wonderful. Some feel average, nothing really happened, but they probably still have something to say. Some feel downright awful. Some feel shitty, you know, some feel hopeless. People don't say those things. It's not socially accepted here to say those things. It's socially accepted to just say, "Okay, I'm okay." What does it even mean, I'm okay? I know I'm being philosophical right now, but I'm telling you that if you pay attention to this, you will notice that people don't ask questions with an intention to listen. And so maybe, and it's funny because we're talking about barriers in romantic relationship. We're talking about a language barrier in a romantic relationship. What I think is happening a lot of times is that we have a barrier in communication in our own language. And I think more than language, it's a cultural barrier. It's like, when did we get to a point where we okay with the fact that we just telling each other okay? I understand that that's situational. I understand that you're not going to be venting to somebody, to random people, how what exactly going on in your life. I understand that some of it is just politeness, but also understand that some people just asking a question just to ask a question. I think that that's also wrong. If you passing me by with no intention to listen to my answer, don't even ask me the damn question. Why? Why are you asking me a question while you're not even going to make that much effort to listen what I'm going to say to you? What is the point of that? Are you just making a check mark? Like, I ask my question, that's the fifth one. I have 5 more to go. I have a quarter of 10 questions to ask to make sure I'm good with the Lord today, right? I have to do, but do you know what is it really going to be enough? Because it's not about the quantity, it's about quality. Anyway, put that hashtag vent. Put the hashtag vent in the chat. You know it's coming sooner or later. You know those things are coming. When I smell blood, I attack like a shark. Oh, you can interpret that the way you see fit. Oh, that's so much fun. Woo! I might need another drink in a second. Non-alcoholic. Jamie, I don't think it does as long as we both try understand each other. Honestly, just feel loved. Listen, this is more important than language. I must say, feeling loved is more important than language. That's my verdict for tonight. If you can feel loved, truly feel loved, you won. You have won. I feel like I was raised in Scandinavia, though, spent a lot of time there. Norwegian, um, Swedish, Danish, Samisk, Finnish is in a Scandinavian language. Then there's Icelandic and Faroese. Wow. I want to go to these countries so bad. I have my mom's friend lives in Sweden, so we need to go and visit. Nice. All right. Jamie said, yes, you can feel it if someone, you can feel if someone is interested in your answer or not about how your day was. 100%. You can feel it with every ounce of your soul. Once I answer bad and they automatically answer that's good. How you doing today, Heather? I'm doing bad. Oh, that's good. How do you like that communication? Well, clearly, a guy either didn't, well, why it has to be a guy? Clearly, the other person didn't hear what you said or does not care. And either one isn't good. Either one is not good enough. Kaya, I hate that with a passion and never participate. How are you? Strong ballerina, how are you is a superficial American greeting. I try not to ask. I try to say something else instead. I try to say, how is your day going today? Because how is your day going today? If you say fine, then you an asshole. Okay? You can't say okay because they're just stupid. Um, so you're gonna have to elaborate. Think of a question to which one word would not suffice the answer. One word answer would not suffice. I mean, Heather said it was fine. I wouldn't take it personally. It's just answering and on autopilot. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's becoming a culture of people on autopilot. We becoming somewhat robots. We're becoming somewhat robots. Again, I'm not suggesting we need to get into deep conversations, but we need to be able to find a way to show sympathy or care for the people that we talk to, or don't talk to them then. How we supposed to, you know, be how we supposed to create communication and a culture of care if we don't even care to hear the answer? It starts with us. So prototype family, please, prototypes fam, I encourage you, when you hear in these conversations, if they resonate, you know, when you're asking somebody a question, take a moment, keep an eye contact, listen what they actually have to say, you know, understand, sympathize, empathize of what they're going through. Starts with us. Strong ballerina ask, do you really want to know, or do you want a polite American answer? I would, you can, but I would say, hey, I really want to know. Or or I don't even think, listen, that's how I would do it. I wouldn't even necessarily say I really want to know. Um, if you're going to ask somebody, how's your day going today? And they're going to give you this BS okay, then it's like, you know, you ask a follow-up question. So what exactly okay? Tell me more. What was I like to ask this. What was the highlight of your day today? You can't say you can't say okay to highlight of your day. You have to actually open your mouth and speak a little bit. So what was the highlight of your day today? Sometimes I ask you that stuff during the Instagram live streams when I just walk. What's the word of the day? What is the highlight of your day today? You know, tell me more about it, right? Got to get people to speak. Got to get people to speak, yo. Felicia, and here I'm pretending like I don't hear when people asking me that at work. They probably think I'm it's all good. Hey, maybe you'll be surprised if you talk to them slightly differently, you know? Listen, it's about having it's about having like a conversation with someone, right? Not just because you're trying to it's not because you're trying to cut that short, but if you started to talk to someone when you actually willing to share something, when you're actually willing to listen, it inadvertently changes the quality of the conversation. You learn something about the person. And when you learn something about the person, you actually might find what you learn somewhat interesting. And even if you don't find something interesting about the other person might actually find that you care to know more about them. So meaningful conversations always win. Meaningful conversations does not mean 1 hour or 20 minutes or even 10-minute conversation. It's a meaningful exchange of information, right? It's like I'm asking a question about you because I would like to learn something about you. I am going at you with an intent to learn how your day was. And I guess you just have to find, like, I guess the overarching you can think of it as, maybe some of you listening to that and say, why, Yuri, why, I don't want to know. Well, if your mission, right, if part of your mission is to communicate well, not even just communicate well, but to treat everybody with respect and consideration, and be a friendly person who can uplift other people, then the writing is on the wall. Then it's easy. So I suppose it comes back to, what is your mission? What is your individual mission? Because my individual mission, I want to uplift people. I want to make they day better if I can help it. And I realize that in order for me to do that, I have to be able to communicate with them in a certain way. No, I don't have to be their dad or their mom. I don't have to solve their problems, but I can give them a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of attention, a little bit of presence in that moment that I talk with them. Just like I talk to you. I want to be present when I talk to you. I don't think about nothing else, but I talk about this conversation here right now. And listen, I know that this is not, like, a lot of these things not perfect. I learn as I go. I've never, like, this is my 46th live show. In every live show, learning experience. You see me stumble and fall all the time. It's a learning process, improvising. I'm sure some of that is probably not even super interesting, but some of you stick around anyway, whether because you like interaction with community, whether because you support me because you're nice, whether because you're asking question, whatever the case may be, right? So I think it comes back. I mean, my point is, we all learn. It's never like perfect, but I think it comes down to your personal mission, in a way, of how you want to interact with other people, how you want to impact the world. I think that's what it is. Jessica said there is a major loss of humanity these days. At times, I think it has a lot to do with the internet and social media. Uh, we do experience that. We do. We become less human. We become less human. It is unfortunate, but we spend more time with our devices. We spend more time with our TVs. We spend less time with each other. COVID does not help the cause whatsoever, and I hope that, how do we break that? Um, we not listen. Communicating through electronic devices is not going to get it done. it is still not the same. Typing a text or sending even an audio message to someone is not the same than communicating face to face, because face to face requires attention, right? So you can send somebody a text and then do two other things at once, right? You can't do that when you're asking somebody how your day is going, if you really care about hearing the answer. And people can feel that BS a mile away. They can feel and see you being disengaged. I can look at you right after you ask me a question and know already if you're present or not within half second. So that's why I encourage you a lot to get on, to join the live show, because it still allows us to connect as close as we can connect face to face and have a conversation. It brings human element into this interaction. And I must say that I miss that a lot. I must say that I do. That's why I enjoy that a lot. Michelle said, Yuri, I am the same. I won't ask anymore anyone how they are unless I have the intention of listening. And you can usually tell when someone is not okay. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that. Becky said, this might sound crazy, but sometimes when I was thinking about him or feel strong emotion, crying, etc., he contacts me. It seems like he can sense I want or need him from the other side of the world. That is something. That is something. Heather said, I think people pretend to be polite for their own conscience sake. I think there's a lot of that too. Jamie said, I think active listening is a skill set a lot of people are missing nowadays. Michelle says, Yuri, I'm the same and I agree. I never ask anyone how they are, if they are okay, unless intent to. Did I already put this? I think it's the same message, Michelle. I think it's the same one. I'm laughing at this. Rant. I like this hashtag rant. I like that. Shh. Moving on. Heather said, Yuri, how did your mom and stepdad understand each other? You said they weren't fluent in each other's language. No, mom spoke a little English, but it's actually a good example. Like it took a while. There were a lot of funny episodes in that interaction, that's for sure. Um, so it was so much fun. It was so fun to watch them sometimes communicate, because they would not understand each other, but they made it work. They made it work. I think, to Jamie's point, that's something that love must have carried them through. They made it work. Becky said, if I ask someone how they're doing, I'm disappointed when they give me a superficial answer and feel like I wasted my time. Yeah, sometimes it's about, it's funny because, like, when you start not communicating with other people, right? If you're just sitting at your desk and just taking care of your business and keeping it to yourself, people still will get mad. People be like, look at this guy, or look at this woman. She's just like a castaway, doesn't want to talk. But then, like, you point at them and say, like, look at those pretenders. Look at them. Look at them talking one word phrases all the time. Some people just not ready. Some people can't handle the truth. Strong ballerina, I will unapologetically say okay if it was an uneventful day, or if I don't want to give too many details about said day, I will say okay. Say okay. Everyone doesn't deserve a detailed answer. Um, yeah, I don't think it also needs to be a detailed answer. I think it comes back to your intention. I don't think that it's reasonable to expect that everyone will communicate with an open mind and open heart, but I think that, people can always also say, hey, it's not my best day today. I've had better days, and leave it at that, you know? Um, Felicia said, next time someone asks me how I am, I will reply with a song that will for sure get someone to stop and listen. I also rap a little bit. I also rap a bit too. Bust out a freestyle on them. I would like to hear that, Felicia. Please. Next time, after this, I will send you Instagram DM asking you how you're doing. I expect your audio message freestyle in response. Felicia, I may actually do that. I sing and rap a lot at work to make the day go by. All those hidden talents, Felicia. Jamie said, I'm dead serious. I totally want to see what happens, Felicia. Felicia said, I will make it happen. The promise has been made. Put hashtag promise in the comment. Jessica said, I dated a guy briefly that did a lot of fobbing, aka phone snapping. What is this? Oh my gosh, this sounds so funny. I don't even know the meaning of this, but phone snubbing on social media. What is snubbing? Can you explain to me what snubbing is? Hold on, let me Google it. Let me translate. Let me Google translate that. This is some funny words. Oh my god. Snubbing in Russian is пренебрежительное отношение. That's what snubbing means, which means like something negative. Negative attitude. Is that what snubbing is? Negative attitude? So a lot of fobbing, aka phone snubbing on social media when I go to visit him. He was unable to carry on a simple conversation. Listen, I think we're seeing something interesting nowadays. I think we're seeing people, real human beings, that become just get dumber. I don't know how else to put it. They just get dumber. Um, Both genders. You're mentioning this dude, and I mean, go to TikTok, watch some of the women on TikTok. Uh, it's just I can't even. They have nice bodies, but goodness gracious, goodness gracious. And I don't know. Look, I don't want to. I don't want to prejudge. Maybe that's just the persona that they give out. But then you see somebody's podcast, and then some people come on podcast, and they just the things that they say is like, just please stop talking. Can't take it. Can't take it. Is it mean? Tell me. Is it mean? Tell me your opinion. So if I'm talking with someone, so since we have ladies, most like I think all of the prototypes right now in the chat who's watching are females, unless we have a male that didn't reveal himself. But in any event, I want to know your opinion. If I met somebody at the grocery store, and I approach that woman, and I have a conversation with that woman, and that woman is just awful. Like, I mean, she cannot put two words together. I'm going to give you some potential outcomes, and I would like for you to tell me what do you deem appropriate and what do you don't deem appropriate. Um, she can't talk. She can't put two words together. Outcome number one, um, tell her politely, I'm sorry, but your communication style I'm sorry, but your communication style is really not resonating with me, and walk away. That's number one. Number two, don't say anything, just turn around and walk away. Number three, get her text number and never text her back. I repeat, you meet a woman who looks attractive from afar at the grocery store, you approach a woman, you start talking to her, she cannot put a sentence together, just awful in communicating. You have three potential outcomes. Outcome number one, to tell her politely, I'm sorry, but your communication style does not resonate with me, and walk away. Number two, once you realize that that's how she communicates, turn around and walk away. Number three, get her telephone number and never text her, never contact her again. Put 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. I would like to know your opinion. Oh, goodness. Jessica said, he tried to reach out again to me 5 months later. I chose not to date him again as I was seeing the same patterns on his social media. That was who he was, and I felt that I wanted more than that. Let's see. A lot of conversations going on. I like it. I like it. I like it. I can't even follow all of them. Let's see. Michelle said, I don't really have anything in common with most people my age. I don't do media except YouTube. Don't watch TV. Don't like modern day music. Not interested in the latest fashion. I'm a geek and shy. You know, sometimes, you know, what am I trying to say? Someone who is being an independent thinker could be a very attractive quality. Someone who is into something, like they have a hobby or a passion, or they pursue some kind of goal. Like a lot of these women nowadays playing video games, and they enjoy it. And when they enjoy it, they do these live streams, and they just in their own cohorts, their groups, and they interact. And I find it, and of course it has to do, it's not just that. I think it has to do, as we talked about with women, whether you can be, as a man, physically attracted to a woman. But I think it's another big thing when you have somebody who's an independent thinker and who can do her own thing regardless what anyone else thinks. I think it's an attractive quality. The votes are in. Becky said number 2, just turn around and walk away. That's gangster. Kaya said number 1. Ruby said number 2. Jessica said number 2. Jamie said number 2. Felicia said number 2. Whoa, you guys are gangsters. You guys, bunch of gangsters over here in Prototypes family. So you telling me, remember, number 2 was turn around. without saying anything and walk away. That is some gangster stuff. Hi, Fee. Why ask her number? Sorry, I'm just awake. It's 5 a.m. here. Good morning. Why ask her number? No, it's just one of the options. It I bet you somebody can justify it. Somebody could justify and say, so you don't have to offend the person. Gangster, just cold. Yeah, cold gangster. Cold gangster. We have one of them right here. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised. I'll be honest, I'm surprised. That's what I'm saying. You can never predict. So what would, oh my God, that is incredible. So the prototype family, basically, let me just break it down for you. Number two option given when you approach an attractive woman at the grocery store who cannot put two words together. Number two option was to just turn around once you realize that she could not communicate well, turn around without saying anything and walk away. Can you imagine this scene? Can you imagine how gangster and actually how inconsiderate that is? I guess I want to know, why you take that over number one and politely saying, hey, your communication style, it does not resonate with me. I would like to know. So I would love to finish this by reading your comments. So Becky, Ruby, Jessica, Jamie, Felicia, if you could comment and tell me your rationale why you chose number two, I would love to know, because I'm curious why you chose that over number one, which is just tell her, I don't resonate with your style, with your communication style. Goodbye. I really would love to know, what is the reason? Heather said, I would say, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Heather is like Jason Derulo. Been around the world, don't speak the language, but your booty don't need explaining. What did he say? Talk dirty to me. Ding 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 ding. Neither one or two. Oh, strong ballerina. Very timely response. Oh man. I always mess with you, strong ballerina, because you always come up with some original stuff, either abbreviations or some words or some cool stuff. Yeah, so I wonder if Becky, Ruby, Jessica, Jamie, and Felicia actually gonna respond. They said number two and then they just disappeared. They just disappeared. If you just joining us, be sure to smash this like button. Happy Friday, everyone. Today's topic is language barrier in romantic relationship. The example that I just gave to everyone is a male at the grocery store saw a very attractive female from afar. He approached her, and then there were three potential outcomes given. Outcome number one, he heard her communicate, her speak. He could not bear that pain. And he said to her, I'm sorry, but your communication does not resonate with me. He turned around. He said goodbye. He turned around and walked away. Number two, he could not bear her communication style. He didn't say anything. He just turned around and walked away. And number three, he got her phone number said goodbye, but he never talked. He never texted her or called her back. And then majority of the prototype fam chose number two, a very gangster way to leave this conversation, simply turning around and walk away. And let's see the answers. Hold on. He said, "Can I have your number so I can block you?" She would not have his number anyway. What is the point of blocking her if she does not know your number? Are you saying you actually would ask her that? You saying you would actually tell her that? Hey, can I please? You're awful at communicating. Can I please have your number so I can block you forever? That's that is that's some cold stuff. Jamie said, I would rather walk away than tell someone their communication style sucks, especially in stranger. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is so this is the coolest thing, right? This is the coolest thing. This is a good example. Let's just read the rest of them. Let's just read the rest of them. Ruby said, I actually misunderstood. I thought you have finished the conversation with the woman and then turned around and left. Okay, fair enough. Kai said, I chose one, but wouldn't have phrased it like that. Okay, how would you phrase it, Kaya? Please write a comment. Becky, I think it's inconsiderate if they don't make a better effort than just a couple of words. I would make an exception if it was a lack of knowing English. It's funny because even now, even now when we're communicating, I think we still have some misunderstanding. The reason I said that is because in my example, when I say she could not put two words together, I did not mean it literally, right? What I meant by that, she just had poor communication style, just didn't talk well, right? When I said couldn't put two words together, imagine like a person who just speak very, very poorly, could not communicate their thoughts very clearly, right? But again, I think that Becky, you took it quite literally, which is makes me wonder, should I have communicated it a little bit better? What I'm very interested to address is this comment. Jamie said, I would rather walk away than tell someone their communication style sucks, especially a stranger. That's very interesting, um, because you can say, you don't have to say that your communication style sucks, because remember the way I worded it, and that was just one example. I worded it, hey, your communication doesn't really resonate with me. That's an example, right? You can say, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm not really feeling the spark. Um, you don't have to say anything offensive, that something that will make another person feel bad. I think the point is to just be honest enough with them to where they know where you stand, and then depart. But what makes me wonder about this comment is that walking away, once you already approach them, how would that make them feel? Because I would argue that if you would word it, in the way to where it's like, you know what, I'm sorry, but not really feeling the spark. Um, it's not super offensive, I don't think. It's just you talking about your feelings and then walking away. I think it's less offensive than just turning around and walking away. But that's just me. That's just my take on it. But that's why I wanted to ask you a question, ask you that question, because I'm very curious to know your rationale. Strong ballerina, I could never say number one. I've only done something like that once. In high school, some guy called me using so much slang I couldn't not understand him. I don't care about slang. Felicia, I don't owe that person anything, to be honest. Walking away would be my option if it were me. That's awesome. That is awesome. Heather said, understandable. I put myself in the other person's shoes and act the way I would want them to act towards me. Kaya, I can see we're coming from different places. Hope you are enjoy the rest of your day. That is definitely a very considerate way. I like that. I might borrow that. Start talking to a girl who's just start acting very, very strange, who's saying some things that I'm not used to. And I will tell her, hey girl, let's say her name is Maria. Hi Maria. I can see we're coming from different places. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's still pretty gangster right there. I can see we're coming from a different place in different time. We could never be. I made a mistake by approaching you. You come from there. I come from here. You doing this. I'm doing that. We could never be. This would never work. This was only a dream. This was only an illusion. Have a great life. You can really get creative with that. Maybe just say, very nice to have met you and goodbye. I like that. Jamie said, yeah, but many guys do not take criticism well, or they will argue with you about it. A lot of men, especially strangers, can be very volatile. Yeah, I realize that it may be different for men and women. I have had my share of rejecting men. They will take my openings. They will take any openings you give them. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. So I chose not to engage. Maybe it's bad, but it is the best way I have found. It is different with someone I know. Felicia, at Jamie, some men have hurt women and some even were killed in the US because they turned them down. You have to be careful with strangers. Michelle, I don't believe any of you would just reject someone so coldly. Kaya, these situations are a consequence of man putting looks ahead of everything else. No judgment, just a fact. Oh, you're going to start. You're going to try to start another conversation here for 2 hours. It's not going to happen tonight. I got to get my beauty rest tomorrow. We have a big day tomorrow. We got to beat number one team in the country tomorrow. I have no play. We have no time to waste. Gator Nation, baby. Gator Nation, the best nation. Best nation in the world. Got to go play hostess to visitors. Remember to be a little naughty today. Is that you saying goodbye, or is that something that you would say to someone you approach? I guess you are leaving. Okay. Have a great evening, Kaya. I appreciate you joining. Appreciate you joining. Women always have to think every day of safety in ways men don't. That's true. That's true. Felicia, I think I'm going to try to put you on timeout. Um, yeah, I can't just delete that comment, so I might have to put you on timeout. If you don't behave yourself again. Felicia and I just going back and forth on that game. It's okay. It's all good. It's all for good fun. It's actually funny. I can put somebody on timeout. That's crazy. Good luck, Felicia. Good luck, Yuri. I'm not sure who to support, so I'm supporting both. You're very wise woman, Kaya. Very wise. Strong ballerina. My friends, this was so much fun. This was so much fun. I think we covered it well. What is the verdict for language barrier in romantic relationship? Language barrier in romantic relationship certainly exists. The language barrier can make your relationship a lot harder. But that being said, language is not always the main component to determine the success of your relationship. Um, your intention in your behavior is. If the intention is to succeed in a relationship by both parties, it's possible even given the language barrier. That is the verdict. Prototypes, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate every single one of you. Let me give quick shout outs before we get out of here. We have Strong Ballerina in the house hanging out with us. We had Kaya in the house tonight from New Zealand hanging out. Thank you for being here. We had Jamie tonight hanging out and sharing. We had Felicia tonight hanging out. Thank you so much for your donation. Thank you so much for your support and continuous engagement. We had Ruby tonight from UK. It's probably pretty late over there, so thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out with us. Hold on, we had Michelle. Michelle, you also in UK, correct? Am I? Please tell me I'm not confusing you with someone else. I believe Michelle, you're in UK as well. So thank you also for being here because it's quite early over there right now. So thank you for staying up and hanging out. I appreciate that very, very much. We had Heather in the house tonight. Thank you for being here. We have Phi in the house tonight. Thank you for being here. I think you're in Indonesia, aren't you? No, you're in Netherlands. Netherlands. That's correct. Netherlands. Wow, we have some Europe here tonight. Listen, real quick, I want to say, did I say Becky? Did I acknowledge Becky? Becky is here tonight, hanging out as well with us. Thank you for being here live, Becky. Listen, I want to say real quick something about Europe. So my European folks, I love my US folks. I love all of you. But I just want to give shout out to European folks real quickly. So Fi in Netherlands, Ruby in UK, and I believe, yes, and Michelle in UK. Listen, I miss Europe so much. I miss Europe so much in the last 3.5 years. Since 2018, summer 2018, summer 2019, in December 2019, I went to Europe. So I've been there 3 times in the last, I guess, 3 years and 2 months. And every time I go there, it's like a magical experience. It's a truly magical experience. And I've been to UK, I've been to London, and I've been to Netherlands twice now in Amsterdam, and I love it. I love it so much. I love Spain. I love Portugal very, very much. And I want to go to Italy a lot. I want to explore a lot more places in Eastern Europe, but I want to come back to Spain again. I want to go to more places in France. There's so much to see. There's so much culture. There's so much history. There's so many interesting places to see, so many nature places to see, and it's all close together. So, if any one of you considering traveling and you thinking what places to go, you cannot go wrong with Europe. You just can't. And it's absolutely beautiful. You also will find that people are absolutely amazing. The culture is so strong. You get to experience art, history. Um, you get to experience surrounding. The when you go to some of these places, these cities are like museums. The environment is unbelievable. The food is unbelievable. So I just want to give shout out to all the European folks who made time to be here tonight and who are hanging out with us. Thank you all very much. I appreciate every single one of you. Tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. Oh my God. Listen, if you have some ideas, let me know. I wasn't planning to go live Saturday and Sunday. I was just gonna take a break, work on some other stuff. It's been a while since I've released a short form video. So I was going to do a little bit of that, enjoy some football tomorrow. If you have some ideas, I know that a lot of you obviously on different time zones. If you have some ideas that you really want to talk about or you want to be a live guest, shoot me a message on Instagram and I will consider going live most likely on Sunday. That would be probably around 12 p.m. If we do that, it would be around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening European time. So if you have some ideas, please let me know, and we can go from there. All right. For now, I don't plan to have one. If I said talk about Europe, yeah, I can talk about Europe a lot. I can talk about Europe a lot. But if there's some specific suggestion that you want to talk about, like if you're willing to join me live Sunday and talk about Netherlands, I'm game for it. So you don't have to answer right now, but you can shoot me a direct message on Russian Prototype Instagram or russianprototype@gmail.com and let me know. And then if you're willing to do it, be my live guest and talk about Netherlands live, I would love to do it. All right. um, so please let me know. Other than that, unless something like that happens and we agree on an interesting live talk like that, we're going to take a break this weekend. But please stay tuned. Please stay tuned for announcements, just in case it does happen, on my Instagram. That's where I do most of my announcements, and sometimes through community tab at YouTube. So I'll try to update both if we do go live on Sunday. But until then, my friends, have an amazing weekend. All right. Have an amazing weekend. Do something that you enjoy this weekend. Go see a new place. Go experience something new. Spend time with someone you love and someone you care about. Be happy, be joyful, be positive, be healthy, and most importantly, always be grateful. Prototypes. Have a wonderful weekend. Russian Prototype is out.